Hey, what a great evening for an IG Live. My name is Sam Letta. I am a trauma coach, life strategist, and soon-to-be author based out of beautiful Santa Barbara, California. Sorry I'm late, everybody. I'm trying to retrofit this mic, the lapel mic that I've had technical difficulties with before. Hey, Tori, welcome. And it is a pleasure and an honor to be here for all of you, you in the nosebleed seats. Hey, Miata. Hello. I want to talk to you tonight about our stinking thinking and about overcoming challenges in your life, especially when they feel that they're an impossibility to overcome. I want to share with you my own life story, my own inner battle with obsessive compulsive disorder. A lot of us struggle from different ailments. It's the nature of the human condition. None of us are perfect. And how I've really gotten a lot of insight from my own issues relating to OCD. And it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing still to talk about it. It's embarrassing to have family have to deal with it. Friends and see me suffer and suffering that I impinge upon others because of my obsessive thinking. But there's a lot of insight and wisdom in our faults. There's a lot of strength and resilience that we can take from our own faults, our own issues. Hey, Starlin Jade, how are you? How are you doing? When I was, 17 or 18, I was officially diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder. I always knew there was something a little off with my crazy brain when I was a little kid. And the reason why I'm sharing this with all of you is it really has to do with our thinking, our stinking thinking, and how our thoughts are an illusion. They seem real, they feel real, especially when we're going through hard times, especially when others don't understand us. That's right. That's all we could do is flow. And when I was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, and I realized at a young age, I thought everybody was obsessive and would do these very strange things that I would do. When I was a little kid, I would count back from 10 to 0, and if I didn't get to a certain number at a certain time or quickly enough, I would get really anxious. And like the other things that people with OCD deal with, which is constantly worrying and obsessing about turning the stove off or making sure things are in alignment in your house. And again, I also was hyper-focused on dust and dirt and staying and being clean. And trying to be so clean and so obsessively clean that I could never get myself, there goes my lapel mic. I can never obtain that level of cleanliness despite how hard I washed my hands or how hard I would wash my face. And I realized I was suffering. And that suffering was coming from here. And then I realized that, this was no way to live. Went to a therapist, put me on medication. Hello, Hussein. Did all these things to try to fix my OCD or my obsessive thinking. And trying to fix it with medication, going to a therapist and doing all these things. And, maybe they worked in short bursts and worked temporarily. But I was back at my ritualistic thinking, my excessive cleaning and ruminating over things, getting caught up in my thoughts. And it was horrible. And all of us have something that we are struggling with, whether it's visible to the outside world or it's in our head. I feel like this manifests for most of us in our own unique ways, always trying to control our reality. And that's what it's about. And again, it's not even about control. It's not even about about what our brain is focusing on or our behaviors. It's about awareness and having real insight into what's going on within our world. And our thinking is not the place to look. And I realized that. And having experienced and purposely, through my own thoughts, through my own thinking, put myself in misery. And especially in relationships. And being okay with being alone, be okay with not being in a relationship, being okay with being heartbroken, being okay with what happened when a relationship doesn't work out or a business venture doesn't work out. And my own OCD, my own inner guidance was kind of glitching, kind of like a corrupt hard drive, where I would hyper-focus on and ruminate over what I did wrong, or how bad life is, or how much lack I have. And this dysfunctional thinking, this overthinking and then thinking about the thinking is what really cracked me open in terms of how I see my thoughts. And realize that our thoughts are just an illusion. They seem real, they feel real, and then we connect our judgments about ourselves based on our thinking, based on our thoughts. And that's a really difficult road to go down, despite where you are in your life, despite your circumstances. And I know it's easier said than done, right? You know, if you're dealing with major life obstacles, if you're... wait, I think I lost my lapel mic again. I cannot get this lapel mic to work and stay put. I put this fancy tape on there and it doesn't work. But anyways, realizing that despite how hard I try to fix my OCD and to fix everything going around me in my head, that there was really, at the end of the day, nothing to fix. Because the insight in that space between our glitching mind and the ebb and flow of our thoughts and the catastrophic thinking that I would focus on when things weren't going right. And I have a PhD in obsessive thoughts, I could say, and I've realized that the blessing in all of that is the awareness, the insight that I am not the sum total. I do this again. I need to fix this lapel mic. I'm going to hold it. Actually, I'm just going to hold it at this point because it's not staying. I'm not the sum total of my thoughts. I'm not the sum total of my thinking. And we forget. And the work I do with my clients and the book that you're going to read soon is all about being stuck and realizing that when we are stuck, we forget all the tools that we've learned. And we trust that our thinking is our compass to having success in life and to creating a life that has nothing to do with your thoughts, has nothing to do with your thinking. You are not your thinking, you are not your thoughts. Despite how powerful they feel, despite how much trouble they've gotten you in the past, perhaps. Because your mind is like, it's a supercomputer, right? Think of your mind like Windows 10 or 11. Think of your thoughts as your smartphone that freezes up sometimes. And thinking that your thinking is logical or your thinking is dysfunctional. None of it matters. Because you will self-regulate. Your brain will self-regulate. Good night, Yada. Your brain will self-regulate. Your brain is a brilliant machine, but it's a machine. Just like any other machine, man-made machine, that will glitch. And just like my OCD and my obsessive thoughts and how I would ruminate about things in life, my brain will self-correct. My mind will self-correct. I will come back down to well-being. And I was reading this book by the brilliant Garrett Kramer, who teaches about the mind and thought and how we are not the sum total of the thoughts going around in our head. Our fears, our emotions, they're not your barometer to how successful or how unsuccessful you are. That's hard to hear because we get caught up in our thoughts. We get caught up in our thinking. Miyata, I'm so sorry, okay. Have a great night, Miyata. We get caught up in our own delusion of thought and realize that there's something wrong with us, but there's nothing to fix. There's nothing wrong. Your baseline is well-being. Despite how rich or poor, how healthy or sick you are, how old or young you are. And once you have that awareness of the illusion, which is thought, and realizing that your higher self, your inner being, doesn't even think. It just sees well-being. It sees love. And that's, very idealistic to say, right? But that's the ego. And a lot of times we get caught up in our ego, which is trying to fix what's wrong with us, trying to fix our life, trying to fix our relationships, trying to fix our financial situation, whatever it is, or our health. And the wisdom and insight doesn't come from your thoughts. Your wisdom and insight comes from being quiet up here and quieting down the monkey mind, which you don't have to meditate to do. It's just having insight and saying to yourself, oh, there goes my glitchy mind again. There goes my thoughts. There goes my brain glitching, because it will glitch, just like any machine. Your inner being and what we call consciousness of who you are is not your thoughts. It's not your prefrontal cortex. It's not your amygdala. Those are just working parts in a complex machine that has nothing to do with consciousness, which has nothing to do with what's right with you, what's wrong with you. All your inner self sees, all what consciousness sees is well-being. Our mind is part of a whole of that consciousness. Our mind in the perceptual objective world sees things, perceives them to be broken, and tries to fix them. That's why the personal development business is a $5 billion industry. That's why people become therapists and psychiatrists and coaches, because we want to offer to the world solutions or quick fixes to your problems. And let me tell you something, as a coach and someone who loves helping people and loves being that catalyst for insight, is being aware of the illusion, which is your thoughts. Your brain can sense danger. Hello, Fonz. Welcome. Your brain can sense danger. It's up to you to decipher what is really dangerous, what is really a threat. And if you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, your fight or flight system is going to kick into action. But in this society that we live in this overstimulated world we live in with instant access to information on social media, etc., we become hyper anxious. People don't realize that when we're caught up in our thinking, we're caught up in thought, and we forget about our inner self. We forget about our own consciousness. That's a great... And the observer is taking that step back and really seeing our thoughts for what they are. It's noise. And a lot of you are going to say, what are you talking about? You know, I have no money in my bank account, or I'm not feeling well, or my partner hates me, or whatever it is. It's all an illusion. Because just like myself, who has in the past struggled with obsessive thinking and anxiety, I realized that my thoughts will calm down. My thoughts will reach a place of well-being. And you could test this. And Garrett Kramer, who's a coach and performance coach, he talks about when we are in a situation like, he talks about traffic, he talks about road rage, in one of his more recent books, and I have the book here somewhere. I'm just thinking, where is it? Oh, I lost my mic. It's okay. I'm just going to hold it up because it's just not cooperating. He talks about how we see our stimuli around us, and when our mind is glitching, which has nothing to do with the objective world around us, well, maybe someone yelled at you at work, or your partner yelled at you, and then you are blaming your low mood or your obsessive thinking on that external stimulus has nothing to do with it. Your low mood is your low mood. Your mind is glitching. So the example was that Garrett talks about in his book, Still Power, and he talks about consciousness. It's just some powerful work. If you have a chance to check out Garrett Kramer, he's online on Facebook. Can I help you with money? I can help you see how amazing an individual and person you are, that your baseline is well-being, regardless if you have money or not, and that external evidence of your well-being has nothing to do with your internal well-being. That once you're able to quiet your mind down by realizing that your mind's going to glitch, taking a pause and taking a step back and saying, you know what? My mind's just going to a dark place right now, and that's okay. I know that I will come back down to well-being again. And the great example that Garrett Kramer talks about in his book, it's Still Power, I believe. And he wrote another book too. I forgot the name of it. And actually just diving into it. He talks about when you're stuck in traffic. And if you're in a low mood, which has nothing to do with the traffic around you, you react in a different way to the traffic when you're trying to get to work in the morning. And if you're in a low mood, you're going to honk your horn, you're going to get angry at the other drivers, and there goes the ball game. But if your mind is not glitching, your mind is quiet, you're going to see that traffic very differently. You're going to see your environment around you very differently. Same thing goes with relationships. You get into an argument with your partner, and you're in a good mood, and your partner's mind is glitching for some reason. And a lot of it is just the ebb and flow of thought. That is nothing to do with your inner being, nothing to do with you being a loving and conscious person. And I want you to really see the difference if you're in a good mood, or you're feeling good and you're feeling balanced in the moment, and your partner is in a bad mood and they're in a low mood. See how you react differently when they come at you with an issue, or they're complaining to you, or they're having issues with you. If you're in a good mood versus a low mood. It's all an illusion. Your mind contains all kinds of thoughts. It's kind of like a hard drive in a computer. I'm sorry, I can't speak Arabic. But if you are having issues with money, the first step is looking at your thoughts surrounding money. Look at your thoughts surrounding the lack of money, and realizing those thoughts are not who you are. Those thoughts are just your mind glitching and the fear and judgment you place on money. And it's the conversation and the awareness that you're having surrounding money. You can get there to what you want by just allowing things to be. There's nothing to fix. And that's hard for a lot of us to hear. That there's nothing wrong with you. That your base camp, your baseline is well-being and love. And that is a spiritual, every organized religion talks about love and well-being. And your inner being, your consciousness within you is screaming and saying, pay attention to me, pay attention to me. You are not your thoughts. You are not your thinking. And when you can step back and not fix what's going on around you and just realize, you know what? It's just my thinking right now. My brain has all these thoughts going on right now. And eventually I will come back down to well-being. I will come back down to feeling good. I will come back to myself, which is a person who is filled with love, a person who is filled with understanding, a person who has well-being within him. And when we get caught up in our thinking, when we get caught up in obsessive thinking, we get caught up in fear, when you can say to yourself, there goes my thinking, how can I have different thinking around money? How can I have different thinking around my fears? I'll give you another example. I struggle with my fear of driving on the freeway, and I've talked about this in some of my other video blogs and some of my other live IG lives about my on-off fear of driving on a crowded freeway here in California. And I realize that's my thinking about driving, my thinking about trusting in myself to navigate the freeway safely and getting to my destination and safely. And the beauty of my glitchy mind is having that insight that, oh, my mind's going there, my mind's going dark, that I ultimately have the awareness within me to not believe my own fears and thinking about driving on the freeway. And a lot of times when I do these IG lives, I'm really not in a good mood. I don't want to do them. But I take a step back and I realize, what's the insight in my fear of going on IG live? What's the awareness that can help me propel me forward? That I don't have to fix my negative thinking about the fear of me messing up on IG Live and not saying the right thing or not having an audience or not being of service to you guys. And at the end of the day, once I just, in my anxiety about doing these IG Lives, in my anxiety of speaking on a public platform like this, I just sit with it. I sit with my anxiety. I sit with my panic. I sit with my obsessive thinking, and I just let it pass through me. So the next time you are caught up in your own thoughts, caught up in your anxiety, caught up in your judgments of yourself or others, realize that's just thought. That's just thinking. And that thinking, just like the tides coming in and out, will ebb and flow. And if having that awareness and insight, you know what? My thinking's going there right now. Maybe it's going to a place of dread, going to a place of fear, that ultimately I will get back to myself again. I will get back to well-being again. Hope this has been helpful. It is an honor and a privilege to be here for all of you, you in the nosebleed seats. I will see you again next week on another IG Live. If you have any questions about my work, If you want to learn more about my work, my client work, go to my website. It's www.solutionist180.com. And have a wonderful week. Don't give up. And take care.